that do not forget. Places where the earth still breathes, where the wind carries voices older than memory. In the village of Umueze, the forest on the western hill was one such place. The villagers called it Enemio, the land of spirits. To most, it was a story told to children, a warning to stay within the sound of the morning bell. But to the elders, those whose eyes had seen more than one lifetime, it was not a story. It was a covenant and a curse. For deep within that forest stood an ancient shrine, older than the village itself. A shrine built for a goddess whose name few dared to speak aloud. They called her Ola's Whisper. Before we dive into this story, kindly subscribe to this channel, like and share. Long before Umueze was a village, the land was wild, ruled by rivers, trees, and gods. Among them, the earth goddess Ola reigned supreme. She governed fertility, harvest, and justice, the breath of life and the keeper of death. It was said that every life returned to her, and that those who broke the laws of the earth, spilling blood unjustly, desecrating sacred ground, or mocking the divine, would be reclaimed before their time. But Ola was not cruel. Her whispers were her warnings. The first people who settled near the forest heard those whispers as dreams. A voice of a woman, soft as wind through leaves, saying, "Honor the ground that feeds you, or it will feed on you." In those early days, a man named Nodi served as Ola's first priest. He was humble, known for his wisdom and his silence. He built a shrine in her honor, a small clay house surrounded by 3 sacred pots. One for peace, one for life, and one for memory. Through him, the goddess spoke. When harvest failed, he performed sacrifices. When sickness spread, he made offerings. The people flourished. But peace breeds pride. After Nodi's death, his descendants continued the priesthood, until greed found its way into the sacred line. A later priest, named Okoli, turned the goddess's gifts into his gain. He accepted bribes, sold blessings, and silenced anyone who questioned him. He called himself the mouth of Ola, but his own heart had gone deaf. Then, one season, the rain stopped. Crops died. Children starved. And the goddess, once whispering, went silent. The silence was worse than punishment. For when a god withdraws her voice, the world grows hollow. Okoli panicked. He slaughtered goats, fowls, even a ram, but the shrine remained mute. Desperate, he entered the forest at midnight and called out to her. No answer. Only wind. So he did the unthinkable. He offered human blood. They said it was his own apprentice, a boy who had served him faithfully since childhood. He slit the boy's throat upon the altar and called out, "Drink, Mother Earth. Return your blessing." The earth answered, not with rain, but with a scream. The ground opened, swallowing Okoli whole. His blood stained the shrine's floor, and from that day, the people of Umueze sealed the forest. The goddess was never seen again. But her whisper remained. A spirit born from her sorrow, and from Okoli's sin. A voice that spoke for the earth, gentle when respected, merciless when mocked. They named it Ola's Whisper. And for centuries, the villagers lived with one law. Never disturb the shrine. Never break the pot of peace. Generations passed. Time buried fear beneath laughter. The shrine became a story, a bedtime tale for restless children. And that was when Chuka, Ibuka, and Kin were born. 3 boys of mischief and pride. They had heard the stories all their lives, stories told by tired elders beside flickering fires. To them, it was all superstition. Chuka, the boldest, often mocked the tales. He said spirits were nothing but shadows of old people's fears. Ibuka was cautious, always trembling at every rumor. Kin was quiet, the one who listened too closely to things others ignored. One evening, after a long day at the stream, a group of boys gathered beneath the Udola tree. They spoke of bravery, of ghosts, curses, and the forest no one dared to enter. Chuka laughed and swore before everyone that he would enter the forest before sunset. He said he would touch the shrine and return. And when he did, the whole village would know who feared no spirit. That laughter would be his undoing. The forest welcomed them with silence. No birds. No insects. No rustling of leaves. The deeper they went, the more the air thickened, heavy like smoke, cold like the inside of a grave. Ibuka wanted to turn back. Kin hesitated, glancing at the trees. But Chuka pressed on, proud and unbothered. The shrine waited for them, half-buried, ancient, breathing. Carvings of faces stretched across the clay like screams frozen in time. 3 pots sat before it, each one cracked but whole. Chuka bent low and laughed. He kicked the nearest one. And that was when the forest awoke. From the shattered pot came a sound, soft, cold, like air escaping from the lungs of the dead. A voice. Low at first. Then louder. You were warned, now you are seen. The forest turned dark. The air no longer moved. The trees seemed to bend toward them. Ibuka and Kin felt the ground shake beneath their feet. Chuka looked around, half defiant, half terrified. Then it came, the shadow. It rose from the shrine, tall and shifting, as if woven from smoke and bone. It had no face, only the sound of breathing, thousands of breaths layered together, whispering words no human tongue could form. And then, clear as thunder breaking through rain, came the decree. You broke the pot of peace, one of you must remain. The boys ran. But the forest twisted. Paths turned upon themselves, trees moved, and every direction led back to the shrine. They screamed, praying, begging, running. But shadows followed. The voice grew louder. Ibuka fell. Kin tried to lift him. And then the forest went silent again. Chuka was gone. Only his footprints remained, leading into the earth. When Ibuka and Kin returned, the villagers gathered around them in dread. Elder Ova, the oldest man still living, listened carefully to their trembling story. He said nothing for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice low and heavy. The whisper has awakened. The shrine has claimed its death. They performed cleansing rituals, sacrificed white hens, poured libations. But the forest remained silent. And on nights when the wind blew from the west, the villagers heard faint murmurs. Sometimes it sounded like laughter. Sometimes like weeping. Months later, strange things began to happen. Crops near the forest turned black overnight. Children claimed to see a tall man walking near the trees at dusk, wearing torn white cloth, his feet never touching the ground. One night, Elder Ova followed the whispers to the forest edge. There he saw it, a figure kneeling before the shrine. It was Nodi, the first priest. Or something wearing his face. He spoke not to Ava, but to the ground. The covenant is broken again. The sons of men have mocked the voice of the earth. Then, as the elder watched, the figure faded into the soil, leaving behind a single clay pot, new, uncracked. The next morning, the villagers found it sitting before the shrine, shining wet with dew. No one dared to touch it. Years passed. Ibuka and Kim grew old but never spoke of that night. Yet each year, on the anniversary of Chuka's disappearance, they heard the whisper again. Sometimes in dreams. Sometimes in the wind. I was warned, but I laughed. And when Ibuka died, they buried him near the forest. On the night of his burial, villagers swore they saw two shadows walking between the trees, one tall and silent, one smaller and trembling. Both vanished into the shrine. Today, Umueze still stands. The forest still breathes. The shrine still waits. Children grew up hearing the same stories, though fewer believe them now. They laugh when the elders speak. They scoff at the warnings. But when the moon is full and the forest wind sighs softly, those who listen carefully hear it again. The whisper. Faint. Familiar. Patient. You were warned, now you are seen. And so, the old ones say, when you walk past the forest of Umueze, keep your head down. Do not laugh. Do not call its name. And whatever you do, never mock the silence of the gods. Because silence listens. And Allah's whisper never forgets. They say no one remembers Chuka anymore. But sometimes, on moonlit nights, travelers who pass Umueze claim to hear a boy's laughter echoing from deep within the forest, followed by a whisper that answers back. And those who listen too long are never heard from again.